Hello there, and welcome back. Today, I want to walk you through Municipality Services, a web portal that I built using ASP.NET and C# in Visual Studio. The aim of this application was to give me a better understanding of data structures and how they work on a low level, as well as some insight into user engagement strategies, and also some good coding practice. But let me not bore you with the details, I would rather show it to you. As you can see, at the moment, we're sitting on the landing page, and over here we have a hero banner with the South African flag, as well as some really nice displayed nav links on the top. If you look to the left of the page, you'll notice the South African coat of arms, and all the colors being used are also very relevant to the South African government. Now, if you look to the top right, you'll notice there's a user toggle. For the purposes of this demonstration, we can toggle between user 1 and user 2, and this is just to, as I said, demonstrate the different types of data that each users can interact with. Obviously trying to showcase that they only have access to the data that they input or publicly available data. In any case, you'll also notice that we have some cards at the bottom over here that allow you to navigate to pages quickly. And I think we can get started talking about the user engagement strategies. So this was required of us in the first implementation. And as you can see over here, we have a nice motivational message for a user to get started and basically engage with the platform. And on the top here, we have a little ranked badge, which I will explain later on. So this little message over here is randomly generated from a pool of messages. So if I switch users, you'll see there's a new one that comes up. Let me switch back to user 1, a new one comes up. Okay, now let's take a look at the reports page, because this is essentially what we had to get done for our first part. I mentioned the rank badges, and that has to do with the leaderboard. So the message here tells me that I am 1 report away. If I navigate to the leaderboard, there's no entries just yet. So let's get back to the reports page and we can start logging a report. So I'm gonna log a water report at the moment. I'm gonna go ahead and fill in my location, and then I'm just gonna type in over here, missing water. Okay, and I can choose a file for file uploads. So let's go ahead and just upload a random file, and then we'll create. As you can see, it just shows up over here. We can resolve the report if the issue gets resolved, or if we want to view more details, we can just click on the report itself. Now you also notice that I've ranked up, and it tells me that I'm 1 report away from the next rank. So if I go and look at the leaderboard now, you can see that my entry is there, and I am part of the leaderboard. If I switch over to user 2, user 2 is still not part of the leaderboard, but they can view that user 1 is there. If we go back to the reports page, as you can see, they don't have any reports just yet. So let's go back to user 1. Our reports are here, and I'll actually visit this page again a bit later, but before I do that, I want to show you that we have some validation checks. So we've got to fill out this field. Let's just enter Durban for now, and then try and, and then try and create. As you can see, it also requires a description. So if I just fill out a description, let's just say water, and select a category, and now we create, it tells me that I need to enter a valid South African location in this format. So we do have some validation checks over there as well. Now let's navigate to what we had to implement in the second part of the application. This was the community page. Over here, we basically needed to display a list of local events and announcements for a user, and basically allow them to filter, search, or sort between them. I've done a demonstration on this before, but I will go through it very quickly. So a user can participate in an event. They can obviously unparticipate if they wish, and they can also endorse events. So if you notice at the moment, the count of the endorsements over here, tooltips, is 86, but if I click on it, it's 87, and this is basically just a queue that displays what I've endorsed. So if I switch to user 2 and we go to the community page, I don't have any recently endorsed events, but you notice that the count has increased because we endorsed it as the other user. So let's go back and decrease that count back to what it was originally. As you can see, it gets removed from the recently endorsed list too. The announcements are just static data. All of this is seeded, but if you click on it, it does bring up some extra details around what the announcement is about. There isn't much more functionality here. Obviously, we can filter by specific categories or whatso, but we're not going to go ahead and do that just yet. So let's go ahead and look at our final implementation, which was the services. This is what I had to cover in this part, and it basically had to do with custom data structures again. So the reports made us look into things like custom lists or hash maps, etc., which I did design. I used a custom list to basically store all the reports that a user creates, and in order to associate it to a specific user, I've created the custom hash map, which uses their user ID as a key and a list, or well, my custom list of reports as the value. And that's basically how we associate. Similarly, in the community, we do the same thing with our My Events and recently endorsed, just to have that relation to a user and what they have available. So over here in part 2, we had to accommodate for use of binary search trees as well as a graph. So I will get into it or touch on it a bit more later, but I wanted to show you what the view looks like at the moment. So over here, as you can see, we have the service requested for water. This is basically generated every time a user submits a report. This is exactly the description that we entered earlier. Basically, when you generate a report, we make use of some concurrent logic. So everything that runs in the background to process that report. We do validation checks, we do duplication checks, which I will show you in a bit. And then we obviously process it and append it to our binary search tree and to our graph for more visualization. But do not fret, I will show you this very soon. I just wanted to explain to you how we get our service requests. So we can't directly log a service request. We have to log a report, and then the report will undergo some auditing in the background, and then that report will then get shown up over here. So if you notice, the status is also set to active because the service is being active at the moment. Let's go back to our reports view. You can see that the status is set to pending. So what I want to do at the moment is actually show you how we do the duplication checks. Let's go ahead and log one for water again, choose the exact same location, and we got that description, which was missing water, if I'm not mistaken, or was it water missing? Let's just double check. Missing water, perfect. So I'm going to close that. I'm not going to append a file this time because that's not required, and I'm going to go ahead and create it. So as you can see, initially the status is set to pending, but if we wait a few seconds for the background processes to happen and so on and so forth, we'll basically get to know whether that report has passed the auditing. So by now, the background processes should have already kicked in. As you can see, it updates in real time. So this report was rejected because it was an exact duplication of the last one. If we go to services, it will not be appended because naturally, well, it shouldn't be. So let's now demonstrate how the graphs, etc. work. As you can see, we have a bunch of different sorts and orders over here. I don't want to go through that because we only have one at the moment, but I will show you the different view we have. So we have the graph over here, and over here you can basically see the one service request that we have listed. So I'm gonna go and log one in electricity at the moment. This shouldn't throw a duplication error because it's an entirely different category and we're gonna enter a entirely different description. So we'll go electricity outage. Once that's done, we can go ahead and create it. That will be set to pending, and then I'm also going to log another one while we wait for the background processes. So this one I'm going to log in the water category, but I'm going to use some keywords. So I'm going to use the word burst pipe, which will essentially calculate a severity score. So in the background processes, I've mentioned auditing, but we also do something called a severity score, which is where we kind of check the different types of fields in the report and get an idea of how severe that problem is so that we can map it out on the graph a little bit better. So let's just say I'm logging another water issue now in Avoca. However, it's this time a burst pipe, which means that it's probably a higher severity and it's what's causing the water missing in the same area. So when something is in the same area and if it's from the same category but a higher severity, then we obviously associate that higher on the tree. So I'm going to go ahead and log this one as well. The last one got set to in progress. Let's go to our services. As you can see, there's only 2 now, but it's a good time for me to demonstrate to you the different types of sorting and order bys. So at the moment, the default sorting the default order will be by severity, but I'll go ahead and sort by date. And you can see that all of our requests are there now. Perfect timing. This was the last one that we just submitted, and this was the first one. If we change it to date ascending, then that's going to happen. And obviously severity will sort it accordingly. This is 28, that's severity 40. Oh wow, so they're actually both of the same severity level, which is not going to solve our issue at all in this case. Because if they're the same severity level, then they will appear as separate nodes. So let's go ahead and log something that wouldn't be as severe. I'm going to go ahead and do water one more time. We'll enter the same location and we'll just say, where is my water? Okay, just for demonstration purposes. Now we'll give it some time for the background processes to carry on. You'll also notice that we've upgraded our rank from submitting so many reports. So let's go ahead and check the leaderboard now. It displays my report count and tells me that I've reached the maximum rank, which is great. So we'll go back to services now, and you'll notice that we have all 4 of our service requests being generated, which all of them have the status of active, but you notice that the severity scores are displayed differently. Another thing that I do want to point out is that we do have some tooltips here to give the user an idea of what they're looking at on this card. So let's navigate to the graph view, and you'll notice that the new report that we created and the service has been generated for now depends on the 2 that have been the same severity score from earlier. So the missing water as well as the burst pipe. By default, cards will be your view. There's just one last thing that I want to show you. If we go back to our reports and then we click on one of the resolve buttons, let's go ahead and resolve the electricity one. So it asks me if I'm sure if I want to resolve my report. I can click OK, and it tells me that it's been marked as resolved. So let's go back. Oh, well, sorry, you've noticed that the status over here is set to resolved. And if we navigate back to our services, we can find the electricity outage where the status has been set to closed. And yeah, that basically concludes the demonstration for this final part. We have our privacy page, which hasn't changed much throughout the process, but everything else remains largely the same and functional. I hope this gives you a really nice overview of what we've covered, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video.